This is Get Ready America, the 2014 National Hurricane Survival Test. Sponsored by Allstate. Hurricanes, hailstorms, falling trees, no matter what happens, Allstate is there to protect its customers. You're in good hands with Allstate. And Plylocks. Plylocks and plywood, the recipe for protection. And brought to you by the International Hurricane Research Center at Florida International University, the National Emergency Management Association, the Salvation Army, and with technical support from the National Hurricane Center and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. This year's most dangerous season is upon us, hurricane season. It's the time of year when the destructive power of Mother Nature can be unleashed, bringing widespread destruction and even death. For the next 30 minutes, we'll help you review everything you need to know about how to best prepare for the planet's most powerful storms and how to react when they strike. Just ahead, we'll present 10 simple questions, and knowing the right answers can help protect yourself, your family, and your property. So get ready to look back at last year's hurricane season. The 2013 season delivered 14 tropical and subtropical storms across the Atlantic. Tropical Storm Andrea, the first of the season, was the only named storm to make landfall in the United States. Andrea brought tornadoes, heavy rain, and flooding to parts of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, and caused one fatality. Last year's hurricane season ranked as 10th least active since 1950, with the fewest number of hurricanes since 1982. But while the U.S. was largely spared, Mexico was not. Hurricanes Ingrid and Manuel caused 155 deaths and such widespread destruction in Mexico that those two names were retired and will never be used again for a hurricane.
Neither of these was particularly strong in and of themselves in terms of their central winds. Neither was a major hurricane, but both were moving fairly slowly, and they both dropped copious amounts of rain and caused significant loss of life over the hills of Mexico.
So why was 2013 below average overall, but still impactful in Mexico, but not elsewhere? Well, the rising motion in the atmosphere that tends to fuel thunderstorm activity that can help tropical storms and hurricanes to develop and strengthen. That was focused near Mexico, and over the main development region of the Caribbean and the tropical Atlantic, we had a lot of sinking motion that was suppressing and squashing the thunderstorm activity, and systems just weren't able to develop in that region. It's all about where the storms go, who has what kind of year, but certainly last year below average and less active than forecast, so clearly our seasonal forecasts are not perfectly accurate, and even when they are, they still don't tell you where the storms are going to go, so we have to prepare the same way every year.
In the United States, we were lucky last year. The hurricane season was not nearly as severe or deadly as expected. Yet we only need to go back 2 years to see just how devastating a hurricane can be. It was then that Hurricane Sandy pulverized the Northeast. This megastorm was blamed for nearly 300 fatalities and as much as $70 billion in damages. That's why experts say we can't let our guards down. We simply don't know when the next Sandy will hit.
If you look at the U.S. coastline all the way from Texas to Maine, you can find places that have been hit by tropical storms or hurricanes recently, some places multiple times, and other parts of the coastline that have gone decades without a significant impact from a tropical storm or hurricane. Some of those places are farther to the north, some are farther south. Throw all that out the window and just realize that we're all hurricane vulnerable.
Quieter than usual hurricane seasons like last year can leave Americans complacent and unprepared. Don't let that happen. Experts say we're in the midst of a decades-long cycle for increased storm activity. That's why one of the most important things you can do to protect your family is to start getting ready now. Adequate insurance is a must.
Nobody wants to be left with a gap in their coverage, so you do want to review your insurance at least annually with your agent. Even small changes in your life can have a fairly big impact on your insurance. So get with your insurance agent at least annually and spend some time reviewing your policy.
Now, let's help you and your family prepare for the 2014 hurricane season. So, get ready, America. Here comes our National Hurricane Survival Test.
Question 1. What is the deadliest part of a hurricane's fury? A. The eye wall. B. Winds within 5 miles of the eye. C. The storm surge. D. Flying debris. The answer is C. The storm surge. While high winds and flying debris can be a deadly combination, they are nothing compared to the massive wall of water pushed along by a hurricane. You can survive 150-mile-per-hour winds, but you cannot breathe underwater.
History proves that storm surge is the deadliest part of a hurricane. The National Hurricane Center reports that more than half of the deaths in recent landfalling hurricanes were caused by storm surge.
It's not the wind that's killing people, it's water that's killing people in hurricanes.
Jamie Rhome is the architect of a fascinating new effort to forecast the amount of storm surge produced by hurricanes. So this year, the National Hurricane Center will issue the traditional information about wind strength with the Saffir-Simpson scale, but it will also put out the storm surge graphic, showing how deep the water might rise and how far it could flow inland.
And this latter part has been historically the biggest challenge with storm surge. We're not challenged convincing the first row of homes that they might have a problem in a hurricane. But once you go 2, 3, 4, 5 rows inland, or even a couple miles inland, we really struggle to convey the threat of ocean water going that far inland. This graphic is meant to attack that problem.
Research at the International Hurricane Research Center at Florida International University has also revealed another danger associated with storm surge. In the aftermath of storms, killer rip currents are often found hundreds of miles away from the storm's landfall. Since the start of hurricane season coincides with beach season, beware, be smart, and always check your local beach forecast.
Question 2. What is your best strategy for protecting your home against hurricanes? A. Cover or strengthen windows. B. Reinforce your garage door. C. Trim limbs from nearby trees. D. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. Wind is usually your greatest enemy in a hurricane, so strengthening should focus on the weakest points of your home.
If you're a homeowner and you haven't done anything yet to protect your home, start with your largest opening first. And for many homes that have a garage, that usually means the garage door. If it's an old door, replace it with a new one that is Hurricane Code approved and rated for hurricane wind and airborne debris. The International Hurricane Research Center in Miami is studying ways to make homes more resistant to storm damage. The center is home to the largest and most powerful research facility of its kind in the world. It operates a 12-fan wall of wind that can simulate the same hurricane conditions that Mother Nature can produce, even up to Category 5 strength. The wall of wind is helping develop the products and building codes that will make homes stronger and more resilient.
We can recreate conditions of a Category 5 hurricane, both wind and water. What's fantastic about that is now we can have research projects and commercial industry bring in their products, their rooftops, their doors, their windows, have them tested in realistic conditions. So number one, we can get better products to the end user. That's you and I that have homes and businesses that need to be protected. And secondly, it's about improving the building codes. If we can learn how to innovate and make better connections and construction techniques within the entire building industry, beef up those building codes, that's what needs to be done.
Salna says anyone who lives in coastal states from Texas to Maine should make hurricane preparation a way of life.
All of us need to take that personal responsibility and personal accountability to be prepared and have a plan. It's inherent for us to do it, not wait for someone else to do it for us or come save us after a disaster.
Hurricane Sandy was the largest Atlantic hurricane on record, with a diameter measuring more than 1,100 miles. Get Ready, America returns in just a moment.
Each year, 95% of homeowners won't have a claim. That's why Allstate Claim-Free Rewards gives you money back for every year you don't have one. And why, if you're part of the other 5%, Allstate offers Claim Rate Guard, so your rates won't go up just because of a claim. No matter what comes your way, your home protects you. protected back. Allstate Home Insurance, from an Allstate agent.
No matter where you served, no matter how you served, no matter when you served, we honor you. The Florida Department of Veterans Affairs. We connect Florida veterans and their families to the federal and state benefits and services they earned.
The Florida Department of Veterans Affairs, honoring those who served us.
80% of residential wind damage begins with entry through a damaged or lost garage door. We now return you to Get Ready, America.
No one's likely to forget the devastation of Hurricane Katrina. And folks in South Florida still talk about Hurricane Andrew more than 20 years after the fact. A hurricane's unfortunate reality is property damage, often in the billions of dollars. And while some loss may be unavoidable, you can mitigate the damage and protect your family by taking a few simple steps.
Question 3. How can I be sure my homeowner's insurance policy is adequate for the storm season? A. Temporarily double your coverage. B. Add $100,000 to any existing coverage. C. Lower your deductible. D. Review your policy. The answer is D. Even if you don't live in an area directly affected by hurricanes, it's a good idea to go over your policy with your agent every year to make sure everything is up to date and reflects current situations regardless of the circumstances. Your homeowner's policy should cover the worst-case scenario, the complete destruction of your home.
It is important for all homeowners to have a conversation with their insurance agent or their insurance company about what their homeowner policy covers and what risks potentially might not be covered by their policy. A good example of that might be flood, where a flood is not covered by your homeowner policy. You'd want to take steps to ensure that you do have the appropriate coverage based on the risks that you do face. Your insurance agent is the best person to help you with that.
Question 4. A hurricane is approaching your region. When should you think about evacuating? A. 24 hours before the storm's expected arrival. B. When emergency officials issue an evacuation order. C. 36 hours before the storm's expected arrival. D. No need to leave if you're at least 1 mile from the coast. The answer is B. Find out well in advance whether you live in an evacuation zone and leave promptly if ordered to do so. Far too many residents face hurricanes at home because they don't believe the storms are that dangerous. When a Category 4 or 5 storm roars in, that's a gamble which rarely pays off.
Research shows many Americans have no idea if they live in an evacuation zone. Jamie Rhome says the most important thing you can do right now to prepare for hurricane season is to find out if you live in an evacuation zone.
Because what will happen is if a hurricane threatens your community, local emergency managers will order an evacuation based off these pre-existing zones. And sometimes they're called 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes they're called A, B, C, D. And if you don't know if you're in one of those and you hear that a mandatory evacuation has been ordered for zones A and B, how can you take action? You gotta know if you're in an evacuation zone and which one.
You can find your evacuation zone by searching online or call your county emergency management office today.
Question 5. Which of the following is the most dangerous place to be during a hurricane? A. Apartment. B. Mobile home. C. House. D. Public shelter. The answer is B. A mobile home. Although construction and fabrication methods have improved during the past 10 to 15 years, mobile homes are generally not designed to withstand hurricane-force winds. Before the storm season arrives, you should always check on the nearest public shelter location and have a plan in place to go there when a warning is issued.
Still ahead, making sure you can financially weather the worst Mother Nature can throw at you.
Major hurricanes are considered Category 3 and above, yet Hurricane Sandy was a Category 2 when it caused widespread damage in New York and New Jersey. Get ready, America. We'll be right back.
There's mayhem in the world. Like it or not, it's a part of life. Mayhem doesn't announce itself. doesn't call ahead. Mayhem doesn't care if you're on vacation, or just remodeled your kitchen, or just said, I do. And though mayhem may be a part of life, with an Allstate agent, you don't have to live through it alone. Are you in good hands?
This hurricane season, be prepared with Plylocks Hurricane Clips. This innovative product secures plywood to protect windows from hurricane-force winds and flying debris without nails, screws, or drilling. Simply measure your windows, have plywood cut to fit, and slide on Plylocks clips and push the plywood sheets into the window openings. Plylocks clips make removal and storing easy. An average home costs about $100. Plylocks clips are available at your local hardware store or call to order at 1-800-583-4289 or www.plylocks.com.
Hurricane activity historically peaks around September 10th. We now return to Get Ready, America.
The scientific community is ramping up for a larger-than-normal hurricane research campaign during this storm season. While hurricane hunter planes continue scouting the inner workings of a storm, NASA will be focusing weather satellites on various parts of the storm, gathering data for new, more powerful computer weather models. Worldwide, social media has become an important tool for emergency disaster service agencies like the Salvation Army. It's using platforms such as Facebook and Twitter to help prepare communities before disaster strikes, and to quickly and in real time provide life-saving information to those most in need of its services.
Question 6. You have pets. Where will you both be the safest during a storm? A. A public shelter. B. Your veterinarian's office. C. The home of a friend who has pets. D. 50 miles from the storm's landfall. The answer is A. A public shelter. Pets can be a very important part of our lives, and since the record-breaking 2004 storm season, emergency agencies have worked very hard accommodating pet owners in public shelters.
Knowing where your nearest shelter is, if you have special needs, there are special needs shelters. If you have pets, there are pet shelters. A lot of people leave their pets behind because they simply don't know. And so personal responsibility, getting in touch with the right people and having that plan in place, knowing what you're going to do ahead of time really gets you ahead of that ball.
Question 7. You don't live near the coastline. What's your greatest danger from a hurricane or tropical storm? A. Tornadoes. B. Rain. C. Flooding. D. High winds. The answer is C. Flooding. Just because you don't live on the coast, you can't fool yourself into thinking you're immune from the effects of a hurricane or other storms.
If we don't think about hurricanes and tropical storms as posing multiple hazards, then we fall into the trap of focusing on, well, where's the center? Where's the eye? Where's the track? What's the seasonal forecast? What category is it? And none of that tells you what hazards you are vulnerable to where you live. And when there's a storm or a hurricane on our doorstep, we are trying to focus more and more our products and our warnings on who's going to get the flash flooding, who's going to get the storm surge, where is the wind going to be the big problem, where are tornadoes possible. That's what we need to focus on and not get wrapped up in all of the other broader issues surrounding tropical storms and hurricanes. The categories and the seasonal forecasts really throw people off what they should be focusing on, which are the hazards where they live. It's interesting, as humans, we always find the piece of information that will convince us that we don't have a problem. If we got hit last year, well, that means our time has passed and this year we're going to be able to take the year off. Or if we haven't been hit for 20 years, well, it's just not a problem at all around here. No matter what has happened in the past, we're all vulnerable this year, and no one can tell you where the storms or hurricanes are going to go this year, so we all have to prepare this year and every year.
In 1953, the National Hurricane Center began giving official names to storms in the Atlantic Ocean. Originally, the names were all female, with men's names added in 1979. Names are reused every 6 years unless they have been retired. Get Ready, America will return in just a moment.
Tragedy can happen anytime, any place, to anyone. When the winds of disaster fade, one organization is always there. An army of compassion. Help turn tragedy into recovery. 1-800-SALARMY.org.
Hurricanes need ocean temperatures of at least 80 degrees Fahrenheit to develop because warm water helps power the storm. We now return to Get Ready, America.
Now's the time to make sure your family's emergency plan is in place. If you don't have one, there are numerous websites offering helpful information. For those wondering what an emergency plan is all about, it happens to be our next question.
Question 8. What elements need to be in your basic emergency plan? A. The phone number of a pre-designated out-of-state contact person. B. Emergency shelter locations, including pet-friendly shelters, and how best to get there. C. Safety and contact information shared with family and friends. D. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. Disaster preparation begins at home, and we must assume responsibility for preparing and taking care of ourselves and our families.
You know, hurricanes are a natural process of the planet Earth. There's always going to be a hurricane season. There are always going to be hurricanes. There's just more people in buildings in harm's way.
Other than the scientific data, how do I view hurricanes? With the perspective of a homeowner and a father and a husband and a family member and a friend of many people who live in hurricane-prone areas. I look at it from the real-world perspective that just about everybody else does. Not from the meteorology and the science and the data, but what hazards could occur where I live.
There are 4 main questions about hurricane preparedness people need to ask themselves. Do I live in an evacuation zone? Do I have the right kind of supplies to support my family after the storm? Do I have the right kind of home insurance, including flood insurance? Am I taking the necessary steps to strengthen my home against powerful storms?
So insurance, supplies, evacuation, and making your home safer. Those are the aspects of dealing with hurricanes that I think about a lot when I'm not thinking about it from the scientific or data perspective.
Against all advice, you've decided to ride out the storm at home. Where should you take shelter? A. The garage. B. Under your bed. C. The kitchen. D. An interior room. The answer is D. An interior room. Preferably a closet, although a bathroom is often one of the strongest rooms in a house. In any event, if a hurricane is coming, you're far better off to leave the area for a shelter or stay with friends 15 to 25 miles inland. Question 10. After a hurricane, how long should you plan to be on your own without outside help? A. 4 days. B. 3 days. C. A week. D. 10 days. The answer is B, and although most experts recommend a minimum of 3 days' supplies, it's always better to have more than you need. Make certain your stockpile of supplies includes at least a gallon of water per person per day. 7 days of non-perishable food items. Canned foods are good, just remember the manual can opener. Any necessary medications. It's a good idea to have at least 2 weeks' worth. Lanterns and flashlights. Emergency radio, available through the Red Cross or local hardware store. Cash, because ATMs might not be working.
People who are adequately prepared are likely to rebound more quickly than those who don't take action ahead of time. Remember, what looks harmless today could be a ferocious, lethal storm tomorrow. Even a Category 1 storm can have winds of nearly 100 miles per hour and cause serious damage. But now you know what to do if a fierce storm forms. Be alert and be prepared so you can stay safe when the next hurricane hits. Thank you for watching Get Ready America, the 2014 National Hurricane Survival Test. Sponsored by Allstate. Hurricanes, hailstorms, falling trees, no matter what happens, Allstate is there to protect its customers. You're in good hands with Allstate. And Plylocks. Plylocks and plywood, the recipe for protection. And brought to you by the International Hurricane Research Center at Florida International University, the National Emergency Management Association, and the Salvation Army, with technical support from the National Hurricane Center and the Federal Emergency Management Agency.